Hi, my name's Isaac. There are not many cars left that still let you row your own gears. And there are even fewer cars that give you Clifford the Big Red Dog as an optional color scheme. But the Civic Type R gives you both of those things. And today, I'm gonna review it for you guys. Okay, the official color for this car is actually rally red, but we can't rule out the possibility that Clifford isn't also that color, because this is the same color as Clifford the Big Red Dog. This new Type R is built on the 11th generation Honda Civic platform, and it's the most powerful Type R ever built. And that doesn't just include Civics, because a couple of vehicles actually used the Type R badge over the years, including the NSX-R. Yes, this is more powerful than that was. Though admittedly, I think I'd have to give the NSX the styling points, because you just can't beat the look of that car. It is truly iconic. Not to say that the 11th generation Civic Type R is ugly. I actually really like the look of this car as well, and I much prefer the design here to the outgoing Type R, which was really sharp and angular. I know a lot of people do like the styling on that one, but I'm glad that Honda went with a slightly more reserved look with this Type R. Admittedly though, this is still probably the closest thing to a full-size Hot Wheels car that I've ever reviewed. I don't think it's gonna fit in the garage unless we take it out of the package. Dang it. I'm gonna try and keep the card though. Here on the front end, you'll get full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights and LED turn signals. Then you'll have a red Honda badge in the middle and a Type R badge to the side of that. Then you'll get just a massive amount of places for air to come in the front end of this car. Honda told me that they optimized this Type R for the best possible performance in every way. From something as small as this brake duct right here for better cooling to something as large as the new rear wing for better aerodynamics, Honda truly
spared no expense.
Moving underneath the hood in the most powerful Type R ever produced, this is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged VTEC 4-cylinder, making 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. And that engine is paired to a 6-speed manual transmission, the only available transmission for the Type R. The EPA estimates are 22 city and 28 highway, and during my time with it this week, I averaged about 24 miles per gallon. Moving to the profile of the Type R, starting here with the wheels and very thin tires, you're going to get 265 30ZR Michelins around these 19-inch wheels. I love the red Brembos, the red Honda badge, and look at this valve stem right there. That's such a unique look that you don't often see. And then moving up here to the mirror cap, it is blacked out, but you do have turn signal indicators incorporated into them and blind spot monitoring, which is very helpful. This car also has keyless entry, but it does not have the option for a sunroof, which is pretty disappointing. You can get a sunroof on other trims of the Civic, but the Type R does not offer it. Moving further down the profile here, as I mentioned, it is more reserved and slightly more conservative than the outgoing Type R, but there still are some nice lines and cool swoops. Here you get some pretty sweet looking taillights, another red Honda badge, Civic, and then another Type R badge. This also has a rear windshield wiper, which is nice because this is actually a hatchback. You wouldn't know it at first. It looks like a traditional sedan, but it is a hatchback, and that gives you a much better load-in ability if you're putting things back here. You have 24.5 cubic feet of storage with the rear seats up, but of course you can fold those down and get even more storage. I really like this. You can grab this handle and click that over to hide any valuables that you might have in here so nobody can spy inside. And then opening up this little spot right here, only a fix-a-flat kit here, no spare. That's a little bit disappointing, but that is how it goes most of the time nowadays. Lowering this, there is a backup camera right there. And then before we move to the interior, I'd like to just mention very quickly the triple exhaust, which looks really cool, sounds even better. Let's listen to the exhaust note. As my brother said yesterday, it goes hard. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we move to the interior is the key fob. You'll have a red Honda badge on the back, then lock, unlock, panic. But you also have this button that you'd think would like open up the rear lift gate. At least that's what it looks like it's doing, but it doesn't do that. It just flashes the lights. Now, this being a proximity key, I wondered if, oh, maybe this like unlocks the hatch. But if you hit lock, you can walk up and it'll still sense the key, so it'll unlock it regardless. I think this button is just here because this is the traditional standard Honda key. I don't think this actually does anything, so I think that's kind of funny. Moving to the interior of the Type R, it is gorgeous in here. As you can see, the flooring and floor mats, as well as the front seats and the seat belts, match that exterior color. It says Type R in these seats right here, and these are super comfortable bucket seats. Very grippy, and I have just loved sitting in them this week. The steering wheel is super comfortable. It's got the red stitching in there. Overall, incredibly premium. Though it's missing some premium features you might think that it would have. Interestingly, these seats are only manually adjusting. Both driver and passenger, there is no option for power. They also don't have heating. No heated seats here. I suspect the reason for that, and the reason this doesn't have the option of a sunroof on the Type R, is probably weight savings. But it is so driver focused, I didn't mind at all. If you're looking for a luxury trim of the Civic, Honda makes those. This is the racing performance one. Let's start on the door panel right here, and I'll kind of take you through the entirety of the front here. This is synthetic suede right here, very comfortable. Window switches, lock and unlock, mirror controls, and then this little bar right here lights up red at nighttime. That's a neat little accenting touch. You also have red lighting in the footwells. You'll have a little climate vent right here. I like the overall climate vent design. I think that's really cool. Even though there's only two here and one on the end, it looks, again, very premium and upscale. You also get a Type R badge right there. But continuing on over here, this little button controls the brightness for your digital gauge cluster. And then this button right here will give you the option to cycle through what safety systems you want on and what you want off. So if you want all of them on, you can have that. If you want some of them, and then you can just tap that and it'll go back to how it was. You have traction control right here. And then this is a manually tilting and telescoping steering wheel, which shouldn't be surprising because everything else in here is very manual. Now, you have your track skip buttons right here, volume, and then this button is a little scroll wheel, and that will allow you to change what you want displayed on this side of the gauge cluster. You don't want anything, you just tap that, you go back to your tachometer. You have a standard turn signal light stock right here for Honda, and the same for the windshield wipers. Over here, you'll have your cruise control settings and another scroll wheel, which gives you even more options to change the center of the speedometer. That's pretty cool. It gives you a lot of different things that you can cycle through. Over here, you'll have your red push button start, and then very, very simplistic climate controls. Again, like I said, very simple in here. Your modes, you spin this, it will give you your temperature. You spin this, it will give you the fan speed, and then your sync buttons over here. It's very nice. 2 USBs, a 12 volt, and a wireless charging pad down here. Now moving up to the screen, there is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto included in this, which is nice to see. You also have the ability to step into Honda Log R. So if you're doing a track day, you can log all that stuff. It's very cool. I didn't have the opportunity to use it this week while I had the car, but it is there. If you want to take it out for a track day and record some of that stuff, that's really neat. Another really neat thing you can do is down here you have your drive mode buttons, you have comfort, sport, and then individual. Now pulling up individual brings this up on the screen. You can hit customize and you can tune a lot of different options in here to exactly what you want. So let's say you don't want the engine in comfort, you want it in R+, it'll do that. And steering, well, I do want steering at comfort. And so it can really be your customized drive mode. I think that's really neat. And then R+ is like the top, and that will change your gauge cluster, give you a little bit different layout right here. That's really neat. It sounds amazing. It's a great driving experience overall. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the driving segment. But I do want to talk really quick. There is a decent backup camera. It's a little bit blurry, not the best, but it does give you the option of a couple of different angles for backing up. So that is nice. And it does have like rear collision alert. If you're backing out of a parking spot, it will tell you if somebody else is coming. So that's nice, so you won't back into anybody. Visibility isn't amazing out the back with the wing, so that is very, very helpful if you're parking in a tight space. But other than those specific things, it's a pretty standard Honda infotainment system. I do like that it has the volume controls right there. That's neat. And then you have your pretty big hazard button down there. And then, as I mentioned, you have your drive modes, and then an electronic parking brake, which I don't love. I wish that it had a physical parking brake that I could pull. I've gotten used to the electronic parking brake throughout my time with this, but if I had to levy one complaint, I wish that it was an actual lever that I pulled as opposed to a button. Though, I know that's the way that everybody is moving. I'm grateful that the climate controls are physical buttons in this car. You'll have two cup holders right here, a very comfortable armrest, and it has that red stitching, and then a little tiny storage cubby right there. You've got a decent sized glove box and a Bose sound system, which sounds pretty good, pretty decent in here. And then up here, you'll have LED dome lights, but that's pretty much it. Standard mirror, nothing crazy here. This is the front end. Very simplistic, very well laid out. You're not reaching going, wait, what's this button? Where is that? It's all very driver focused, as I mentioned, and simple. Moving to the rear seats, I was slightly surprised to find a fairly decent amount of legroom back here. I probably have about an inch, inch and a half. This is right about where I would sit in the driver's seat at 5'9", and then I have about an inch of headroom. It's a Honda Civic. I expected it to not have the biggest back seats, but I'm surprised I kind of fit okay back here. 3 adults would be pretty cramped, especially since this center seat also doubles as cup holders. So you could choose to either have a friend sit here or you can put your drinks here. I think it would be too awkward to have both. It'd be kind of weird to be like, hey Dave, can I, you know what, never mind, you can just have the drink. So it is a little bit compact back here, but a fair bit of room. And you do have some nice amenities. You have a speaker back here and a little tweeter slightly higher in the door. This is synthetic suede right here. And you still get the red seat belts, though, unfortunately, the rear seats are only red stitched with the accenting. They are black. You only get the fully front red seats in the front, which is a little disappointing. I wish that there were fully red seats back here too, but not the end of the world. It does remind us that it's a Type R right here, and it gives us a little spot to give our friends a shoulder rub if they've been driving for a really long time. So I appreciate that attention to detail. No fold down armrest in the middle, though of course they do have the cup holders there already, so that may be redundant, but not bad. I do wish there was climate vents back here, but again, it's a small cabin. It gets cool in here pretty quickly. All right, driving the Civic Type R. If I had to summarize the overall driving experience with this car, I would use the word refined. It just feels like Honda has put their all into this, and the overall experience is wonderful. I mean, it just sounds excellent. It drives excellent. Handling around corners is fantastic. I love these bucket seats. It's so grippy. And I don't drive a lot of sports cars for this channel, but I recently had the opportunity to drive the new MX-5 Miata, and that was a great car. I really, really loved that, but it was a little bit more rough around the edges compared to this. Now, for some people, they're gonna want that driving experience. They're gonna want that rough around the edges kind of car, but here, it just feels like Honda has tuned everything to perfection. They really know what they're doing with this car, and I've just had a joy driving it. It really has been fun. And I would totally recommend this car. If you're interested in a sports car like this, and like I said in the intro, brand new cars with manual transmissions are getting more and more rare. You don't see them as often anymore, but this one's here, and it doesn't feel like Honda cut any corners when designing this or made this kind of an afterthought vehicle. This is the premier Civic. This is the sport one, and yes, okay, I know there is a Civic Sport, but this is like real sport. Right now, I'm gonna put it into R+, and it just sounds fantastic. The gauge cluster lights up differently. Pedal to the floor, oh my word, it is so much fun. As I mentioned on the interior segment, there's that individual mode that you can mess with, so you can kind of tune what you'd like on this car and what options you want to have. So maybe you want the steering to be more comfort focused, but you want the exhaust note to sound more like that R+. You can do that here. This is the type of car that makes me want to extend my vocabulary just to find words to complement it. It really has been such a treat, and I have loved the whole thing. Earlier, I mentioned how I wish there was heated seats and a sunroof, but the more you drive it, the more you don't care. You're like, okay, whatever, I don't need those things. It's about the driver, and that's what it comes down to ultimately. And there are enough creature comforts in here that I think it justifies its price tag. Well, that's just about gonna wrap up my review of this Civic Type R. But before I go, I'd like to mention that I'm a Christian. And if you have any prayer requests, I would love to pray for you. You can leave those in the comment section below. And lastly, I like to close out with a scriptural reading. This week, I'm in the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. The Apostle Paul is speaking here, and he says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." Thank you guys so much for watching. As I said, I'll see you next time. And remember, no matter what vehicle you drive, I hope it lasts you a long time and it serves you well. Take care.